Well, good evening, Internet, and as always, I hope this finds you well. Tonight we are taking a look at the well-known guitar hero, Johann Sebastian Bach. And yes, something a little bit different, and no, I'm aware he was not a guitar player. But he has gone on to influence a great many significant guitar players, including, just pulling names out of a hat here, Paul Gilbert, Yngwie Malmsteen, Randy Rhoads. And if studying his music was good enough for those guys, I think it's probably good enough for us as well. As always, potted history and tabs of this will be available on the blog on Patreon, Ko-Fi and Subscribestar. And so if you like what I'm doing here, you want to support the channel, then you can help. You can do that by subscribing for just £2 a month. Bargain of the century. Right, let's crack on. So, in order to get a little Bach neoclassical style into your playing, there are a variety of devices that you're going to want to employ, but the first of these is the harmonic minor scale. Now, the theory behind the harmonic minor scale is, well, it's something that we'll probably get into in more detail at a later date. What we're going to quickly look at is just break down how that scale is put together. So with a conventional major scale, we have root, second, tone to the third, semitone to fourth, tone to fifth, tone to sixth, tone to seven, semitone back to the root. For the natural minor, some of you will be aware we flatten the third, sixth and seventh notes. All the harmonic minor does is put the seventh back to its natural state. So we have root, second, flat third, fourth, fifth, flat sixth and natural seventh. And you can hear straight away quite a spooky kind of baroque feel. I always think of it as the vampire scale. Got a bit of a Transylvanian feel to it. In the key of D, it's giving us the notes D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C sharp and D. And I have put a little scale box in there for those of you who like such things. There's your D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C sharp, that's your money note, and there's the D. And you're going to see the scale underpinning a lot of the examples that we're going to demonstrate. Okay, so the first one that we're going to demonstrate is from Toccata and Fugue, or Fugue, still not 100% on the pronunciation, in D, and even if you don't recognise the title, you are going to recognise the piece of music. Let's get a bit of distortion on. So just slowing that down. So I have taken one or two liberties with this as it's originally an organ piece to make it work on guitar. There's our A pulled off to G back to A as our call. And then we're going to work our way down the minor scale. And there is the C sharp, the harmonic minor, major seventh. So we've got call response, call again. And then this is the bit I bodged basically because there's an awful lot of organ stuff going on that you can't really replicate on the guitar. So what I've put here is a inverted D power chord, 5th root 5th, and then a D minor major 7, so that's root, flat 3rd, 5th and major 7, starting on the C sharp major 7, into root, minor 3rd, 5th, major 7, root, flat 3rd, 5th, major 7, and root, and then we have a little resolution here as a sus4 to sus2 and back to major, so that's there's your sus4, root, root 4th, sus2, root, root 2nd, and major, root, root 3rd. And let's put it all back together for one last run through. So all, of course, should be played with the appropriate attitude and grandiosity and Ingve style vibrato. Moving on then, we'll move to a rather different sounding piece. This is taken from Prelude in C Major from the Well-Tempered Clavier, and I put this to clean, I think. And what we've got here are a series of arpeggios. So there's one or two tricky fingerings in there. I've put out the fingerings as best I can, really, to make it as accessible as possible. But you're inevitably not going to be able to quite let the notes ring into each other the way you would playing this on a piano. But that's half the fun, is transcribing a piano piece for a guitar and then making it work anyway. Let's look at the theory behind this, because that's really where the clever bit is. So we start off with a C7. C, E, G and B flat, and then we move to the F major 7. So you've got there F, A, C and E. So the C and E have stayed in place, the G has moved down a tone to an F, and the B flat down a semitone to the A, but we're keeping common tones there. Then we move to this F sharp diminished 7, and that is an F sharp, A, C and E flat. So from the F, the A and C have stayed in place, the F has moved up a semitone from F to F sharp, and the E has come down a semitone to E flat. And then we add to the F minor 6 to finish it off with. And what we have here, the F has stayed in place again, C has stayed in place, F sharp has moved down to F, E flat moves down a semitone to D, and the A has moved down a semitone to A flat. But you're anchoring everything around this C note, and that's how he's managed to move, that's how he's come up with this chord sequence essentially. Keeping common tones and just moving ones up by a tone or a semitone at a time. So if you've ever wondered how these chord sequences that sound very baroque but still somehow right come together, that's something that you should really look at, rather than just thinking about chord sequences in terms of playing familiar shapes. Not that there's inherently anything wrong with that, that's responsible for huge numbers of fantastic songs. But if you're looking to try and make your composition, I don't know, to get yourself out of a rut, looking at the theory and the actual composition of the chords themselves that you're using can be a great place to start. Okay, let's move on then, and this next one is taken from Prelude in C Minor. And what we're going to start with is this idea. And so what we've got here, this is a concept I call the melody sandwich, although I'm sure that there is a more sophisticated name, and classical musicians, please do put this down in the comments. I'm aware I'm a simple guitar playing hack. What I've got here is a C note, then an E flat, D, E flat motif. That's the filling of my sandwich. And then I've got the low C root note there on the D string. So these two are, if you'll forgive me, the bread of the sandwich. And then here is the filling. So there we have a little idea that sounds pretty cool. You're only dealing with a root, a flat third and a second, so it's not particularly tricky to add those notes in a basic pentatonic vocabulary. But also we can then start to develop this a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is keep my low C in place, my bottom slice of bread. I'm going to keep my sandwich filling in place, and I'm going to move this top layer of bread around. C, D, C and B flat. So now, as you can see, we're starting to develop that, keeping to a straight up C minor vocabulary, so nothing, again, particularly scary in terms of, you know, where you would fit this in. That's going to fit a blues in C minor quite happily if you wanted to bend a few ears at your local open mic night. And now we're going to develop that a third layer, and we're going to actually move the bottom note as well. And we're going to move this in contrary motion, and this, I believe, classical musicians do feel free to contradict me, that this is a technique known as counterpoint. So you've got a contrary motion idea. Our top melody note is moving from C, D, C, B flat, whereas on the lower note we're going to be moving, actually made a mistake in the tablature there, oh well, B flat, A flat, B, C, and that again kind of repeated idea that's, it's not massively outside the harmonic language that we often use when we're playing just blues and minor key rock stuff anyway, but inevitably it wouldn't be. Whatever genre you're playing, it's the same 12 notes. But what we're doing is an approach that is not particularly common for most guitar players, and really does summon the feel of that kind of Baroque classical music. Let's finish up now with a lick that is not so much Bach as Bach inspired. This is using the pedal tone idea, and what I'm going to do is put this into A natural minor. So I'm using A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, and I'm going to be playing the notes against the high A note up on the 17th fret high E string. Now this is known as a pedal tone. If it was played on an organ, you'd be playing that with the foot. But you'll recognise this if you've ever heard Ski Sunday, or basically any Yngwie Malmsteen solo. And you can see there that I would recommend starting off by picking with an upstroke, as that first note you're playing is actually a pickup note, and it's the second note that falls on the beat. A1, E, and a 2, a 3, E, and a 4, E, and 1, E, and a 2, E, and a 4, E, and a... Now again, that's going to fit into an A minor blues. You might want to warn people that it's coming up. But with all of these examples, what I would recommend doing is the 2 bars on, 2 bars off practice method. So practice it in some form of rhythmic context. So there, for example, if you're just playing away, you might want to, instead of just playing the lick in isolation, play 2 bars of an A power chord before jumping to And that's how you can start to get these ideas into your playing and have them sound more organic, a little bit less stapled on. So we'll wrap things up there. Bit of a bumper issue to start 2026 off. Again, if you're enjoying the channel and you want to support what I do here, because this is still very much a one-man show with a slightly poorly PC and a couple of old mobile phones, come and find me on Patreon and Ko-Fi and Subscribestar at JM Guitar Tuition. And I will see you on Friday for the 1 Minute Lick. Alright, take care.